So you at your bar?
I'm sitting at my bar, yeah,
Okay, that's what I thought.
in the background. I just changed seats. I'm sitting behind it so I can watch Tigers a little bit.
All right.
Well, yeah, I just hanging out here, man. But you see my video I sent you of the dog watching
You know
soccer?
what? No, I got it, but I was at work.
Oh,
I couldn't do it, and then I
okay.
totally forgot about it. It's
You
been
have
a
to watch
pretty
it.
busy day,
Yes.
dude.
Huh?
It's been a busy day.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
I did work got a little crazy, and then I had to go and wire money because I refinanced my house today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so then
Doing that.
I did she came over and I had to, spend the 15 minutes signing my name.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but yeah, it just got a little crazy.
Got a little crazy.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
Hey, let's do
Crazy's
that.
good. Those days are good to have every so often. Oh, hey, relax there, Wheatley. Don't make yourself too much. Just content right there, boy. How do you watch the Tigers upside down like that? The video's pretty funny. You have to watch it. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, no, it looked at it, and I just wasn't
Oh,
in a spot where I'm like, I'm gonna have to turn the sound on, so I couldn't do it.
yeah. See here, I got the best duo, double play duo in the
Oh yeah.
in the history of baseball right there. Lou and Alan Trammell right there in
Dude.
that picture. Yeah. So
Yeah, and again, imagine, again, he was Jehovah's Witness,
who,
and
Lou?
he
Yeah,
said,
Lou.
yeah, him and Chet Lemon.
Yeah, that's right. Remember they didn't. I don't think they partake, did they?
No, they
They
sat down, they sat in the dugout during the
had
national anthem.
their anthem, right? Most of the time.
Yeah, and nobody cared. You know,
It
you know what I mean? They just
wasn't
did it.
media news.
It was against the religion, and
Yeah,
nobody cared, and nobody should, in my opinion.
it's crazy, isn't it?
I don't know how it became like just about being not supporting like the military.
Yeah, or the
That's weird.
it's just I haven't seen as much of it lately. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but maybe there's too many other things that they're protesting. I guess I don't know, but it's just
Well, it politics and sports didn't collide back then,
right,
and
right.
now it does. How's that for a transition?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does collide now. It definitely collides. It's today, like you say, here we are on MI Sports Talk, and we're supposed to be about a lot of Michigan sports. Obviously, our when we started this was obviously Michigan Sports Talk and covering Michigan, Michigan State, Tigers, Lions, Pistons, and then a little bit of national. But really, it's gone to almost a lot more national than it has local. But obviously, when I first saw that today with the Milwaukee Bucks, protesting, and then and then and the Brewers, obviously the Brewers protesting and sitting out. I didn't put it all together, but then I realized, oh, it's Wisconsin. So then there's then next thing you know, the other NBA teams all join in, and I don't know if it just became, the whole NBA just said let's just shut it down and not not make it be, but maybe the other teams started discussing it, but they were out there warming up on the court and
Yeah,
and walked off. They all walked off in that game, I guess so.
they probably didn't. It was probably twofold. They didn't want to put their players in a position to make a stand or make a choice by not making a stand
Right,
because
right.
that's a stand in itself now.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
there's
definitely.
a there's a Rush song in there somewhere.
Oh
But,
yeah.
if you
Yeah.
choose not to decide, you've still made a choice. And but anyway, they probably didn't want to do that to force them to do it.
Yeah. I think the NBA kind of just stepped in and said, all
The
right, we'll
way it's
postpone all of them. They only got 3 games going. It won't be
right.
quite the media blitz, or whatever. Maybe they'll just say. Yeah, but then you look at, obviously the Lions did something yesterday during theirs. They made their statement yesterday at practice. You heard about that, right?
No, I didn't. What happened?
The Lions, they got together in the locker room and they had a meeting and talked as a team and realized that, they wanted to make, a little statement of their own. So they called off practice and they went
Oh,
out. They had a sign and they stood outside the Allen Park complex there and they took questions from the media. And I think the sign, I forget what the sign said, the world, something about the world can't, ignore or something like that. I forget exactly what it said, but, I'm going to give myself a little more light, Griff. Hang on.
all right.
There we go. That might help me a little bit. I'm a little darker than normal. But yeah, they just they end up doing a no practice walkout kind of a thing. But uh, Flowers, he made a little statement and talked to the press a little bit, and it was agreed upon, and all the players came out and talked about it. So a little bit and fielded questions from the media. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Okay, so I think there. Okay, it's a very deep issue.
Very.
And I I don't know. I guess my understanding. I get. How can I put it? I think that if you understand that it's a deep issue, you understand a lot of it,
Sure.
even if you haven't lived through it. And I certainly haven't. I've seen a lot of different things about, and again, it's not just about, um, like equal rights or anything like that. It's about like just a different way that people are treated inherently in the system just because of their skin color. And I don't have that skin color. I don't, but I've seen it. I've seen it, and I bet you've seen it.
Sure.
And it might be, hell, it might be in a basketball game, a rough foul's called where it wouldn't have been on a white player. Um, how many times? And again, I mean, without even going into speculation, um, how like we hear this stuff about, okay, he was just going into his car, or how do you know what he was doing before? Like some people sit there and go, okay, all he was trying to do is get up,
Right.
put the
Right.
knee in his throat.
Right.
Um, anyone would do that. And then people say, and other people go, yeah, but what was he doing in the 7 minutes before the 7-minute video?
Right. Right.
Um, he was resisting arrest. He wasn't listening to the officers, all this different stuff. Um, but I mean, you can make the arguments either way, but it's still something where, um, how many times have you heard that about a white guy? How many
Yeah.
times have you heard of a white guy getting shot by the police because of resisting arrest or whatever, or
Right.
his throat was being kneed on, or and you don't know what he was doing. It always almost seems to be black,
Right.
and and more to the point, it seems to be white officer on black man,
Sure.
and it's just not um, it's not random. It doesn't
Right.
appear to be random,
Right.
and and they live with that daily,
Sure. Yeah.
and it's sometimes it's just sideways glances as they walk into a music store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's fearing for their life when they get pulled over. I mean, it's pretty crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you don't have that thinking process. I haven't been pulled over, in the past too much, but it's not like I'm sitting there, paranoid for what's going to happen. I was always instructed by my mom and dad to, know, yes sir, no sir, put your hands on the steering wheel, make sure you don't irritate the officer, and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. Don't be, question anything. Just like anything, growing up, I was never taught to question authority too much. I was always, teachers. I never gave teachers too much issues. I wasn't bad in school, obviously, because my dad was involved in the schools a little bit, so I had to
Yeah, yeah,
mind my P's and Q's a little more than others. But so there's a lot of times when I had to think twice before doing things, and a lot of times when I went out of the house as a kid, sometimes my parents would say, remember, what your father does for a living, or your name on, your last name, is your father's earned that, so there's a lot of things that I had to deal with as a kid growing up that maybe other kids didn't have to deal with. So it was like, and I still probably pushed the envelope at times, as you and I know,
yeah.
a little bit, so there was always a risk there that I took at times. But when it came down to any situation, if I got pulled over, I was never, you know, I, all the time. It's like anything. You see a police officer, you take your foot off the gas pedal. It's
Right.
instant instincts. You're going to slow down. You look down at the speedometer, see how fast you're going over or whatever. So there's a lot of things there in that situation. At my upbringing, I was brought up in that manner. Other people may not be. Other people may have a little more issues with them, and that's just the way they're brought up to and that's why we have police force and military and all that kind of stuff, because there are people that don't view them probably the same way others view them. So there's people that go out on Fridays looking to probably push the envelope as much as possible, enjoy themselves, no matter what. And, you know, I don't care what anybody tells me. I'll do what I want to do. So,
Right.
so there's a lot of that kind of stuff that sometimes is out there, and that's why we have to have people to make sure that doesn't happen. At least that's my upbringing. That's at least what the way I was taught. For 53 years here. So, but it obviously it is. It's people are profiled, especially if you have multiple issues. Where your name's when they pull you up on the screen and you have a pretty good record on underneath there, your name. It says you did this, 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 and this. They're going to tread a little bit lighter. If they pull up maybe my record or your record, there's not going to be much underneath. There's, you're going to have multiple speeding tickets or whatever it may be.
Right.
So, so they
No,
always
that's
they
it.
always proceed to that car. I'm sure the police always proceed to that car a little more cautiously. If someone's got outstanding tickets or outstanding this, or you see different videos, even the one where the guy was trying to be uh, arrested and he fought the police. They fell to the ground. They ended up fighting. They shot at each other. I saw a video of that the other day. It's crazy on TV. So it's like, oh, so you just don't know. And like you said, there could be people out there who are white who have altercations. I'm sure that have altercations and don't like the police, and and fight against the law. So
Right.
just as much as there's black or Mexican or whatever Asian people of all sorts are in prison. It's not necessarily just one breed of people that are in the prisons.
Right.
So there's prisons all around the world. So, but
Yeah, it's you bring that up. It was God, last week, maybe like maybe like Thursday or something or Friday. Yeah, no, it was Friday actually. I'm driving down Telegraph Road and I'm talking, hands free and everything. But my
sure.
car is like super smooth. So I'm going faster. I'm always seems to be going. I always seem to be going way faster than I think I'm going. Is because one, I have a Jeep, which
Right.
just drives like a dump truck, and
Sure.
then I have a Fusion, which drives super smooth, especially in comparison. So I might be going 60 when I think I'm going 45. So
Sure.
anyway, I'm zipping along, and I'm always looking at that, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I was going that fast." Anyway, all of a sudden I see a cop behind me. I switch lanes right away. He switches lanes right behind me, and he's just right on my butt, and he's there, and I'm even talking to the guy from work. I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna get pulled over here in a second." And I tell him what's going on. He goes, "Oh, he's running your plates." And then all of a sudden, he just switches lanes back and moves on.
Moves on.
Yeah. Okay. So if
Yeah.
I'm going, and I don't know what I was going. It happened too fast.
Sure. Sure.
I think I would get it. I didn't even get a chance to look down and see how fast I was going.
Right.
But
Right.
I'm going probably minimum like 10, 15 over.
Sure.
If I'm black, do I get pulled over immediately? And then he runs my plates.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah. You
know,
don't know in that
and
situation. That's what the profiling. Obviously, that's when what we're getting these guys protesting uh, about is that I think that's exactly what the point is right there is that
right,
these guys feel all right. Well, it's whether or not there's something underneath there, but you know he it can operate a lot different. Like there, he ran your plates. I was driving home one night late, not late, but 10 o'clock or whatever, 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was coming home from a practice coaching, and I was at a light, two other cars next to me, one on each side. We take off from the light, turns green, we driving, and we're all going pretty good. But one guy went faster, and next guy went a little faster than I did, and I was kind of going. I was in third. So if you rank them, we were
right,
all we were going 5 over, maybe 10. The first guy probably 10 over, whatever it was. We were all going over the speed limit from the light, and then lights we passed the other lights. All of a sudden, I look up behind me, and man, there's a police car coming up on me, and the lights went on, and I start to get over to the right, and he follows me to the right like you did. And there wasn't that much traffic out there, so I get all the way off to the shoulder, and he's pulled up onto the shoulder behind me. Stop! I almost come to a complete stop, and he takes off, and I'm like, all right, whatever. So I start to go because he had left, and I start driving again cautiously, and I look up, and he did the same thing to the second car. He pulled that guy over, slowed him down on the shoulder, and he took off from him, and he went and finally caught up to the first guy. So we were maybe 400 yards apart, probably.
right,
We weren't right next to each other, but the guy was able to slow me down, slow the second guy down, and he ended up pulling that first guy over for being the main speeder. And it was
right.
very creative, but we never got any tickets. But it was like, there's different processes, I guess, that
Yes.
do, and I was fortunate enough that I was not, he very easily just could have pulled me over and let the other two
Right.
guys go.
No, and you know what? That's a way of sending a message.
Sure,
Like,
sure. You taught me a message. You taught the guy in
you
the middle of the message, and
there's
he's going to
somebody
be okay.
worse.
Yeah,
And again, and here's the thing. Again, it's one of those things. Like, I hate making things about race,
right.
but in the world right now, we have to.
Sure.
Okay, and that's a major change in my philosophy. And I understand the idea of white privilege. Okay, and it used to be where, say, a black female says something about white privilege, like even 2 years ago, I might roll my eyes. But
Hmm.
now I get it. And what you're describing might be white privilege. And what I described is definitely white privilege.
Yeah.
I doubt they let a black man going whatever 15 miles an hour over the speed limit with I doubt they let him go. They probably pull him over just to see what's going on,
Right.
just to get your eyeballs on him,
Hmm.
and that's the
Yeah.
You ever, not to like change the pace. You ever see the Chappelle show
Dave
when
Chappelle.
Yeah, when he dresses up like a white guy.
No, no.
He goes around. He's like he dresses up like a white guy, and everyone's like handing him free stuff and then that. It's pretty funny. He walks into like a pizza shop, and they're like, "Oh, just take it," or like a 7-Eleven or something. He goes up to pay. He's like, "No, no, no, you don't have to pay. Go." and um, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what's great satire when you can sit there and like, I
Sure.
mean, it. And then here's the thing. That's kind of how. Again, I'm not black. I can't speak for them, but
Sure.
I think I understand the idea behind it. I
Sure.
think,
Hmm.
and that's the idea.
Yeah.
You you got a um nonverbal warning,
Verbal warning. Yeah.
okay?
Slow down.
And it
Yeah.
was much more than me. I just got let go. They just didn't even bother me.
Sure. But it slowed you down.
It did.
It slowed
But
you down, so that served a purpose. Whether or not he ran your plates or he just thought, I got someone else to go on to, or I'm gonna move on to somebody else, or maybe I'll slow this guy down because I'm heading off to, he could have been punching out in 10 minutes, or he could have been on
right,
his way to, he might have phoned somebody and said, let's meet for lunch. I'm on lunch break here. Let's meet. And he sees you, slows you down a little bit, and then all of a sudden just keeps going. So there's a lot of different ways that they can approach things.
absolutely.
I mean,
But
this one here, in the situation that we're dealing with right now, the most recent one, do you just say, okay, we'll walk away from it, or what's the situation if they don't, it didn't proceed the way it did, and they stand back and let it play out?
right,
If they don't make that split second decision, where you got to decide, what am I going to do here? Am I going to let this play out, or do I call? It's like anything in that situation. I coach a lot, so there's philosophies of the last second of the game, 10 seconds to go. The other team scores, game's tied. My kids take the ball out of bounds and they race it up the court. Do I call timeout and set up a play, or do I let them run it out and play it out and see what happens? So I have to make a split second decision there as a coach ahead of time, or if I've already thought about it ahead of time, saying if they score here to tie it, am I going to let this thing play out and let the kids just take the ball down and see what happens?
right,
Maybe we'll get a fast break and a layup or a shot. You know what I mean? Or do you call timeout and get them organized, and then get a play and organize it and say, okay, we're gonna do this. So you got to make that split second decision there. Even in like football, the quarterback's got to make split second decisions. So here these guys are in a police situation, and they can't foresee the future. They don't know what it's going to be like, and they have to make a decision by how they've been professionally taught, you know. And it's like, what do you do when you're out on the field in that situation? Do you let it play out, or do you make a split second decision? Do you call the timeout and set up a play, or do you let it play out and see what happens? You know what I mean?
right.
Kind of
Yeah,
similar to what that would be. As a coach, you got to make that decision, or in a quarterback, on a split second decision, am I going to throw here, read the defense, this ball's snapped, I got a split second decision to make. So professionally, in an athletic situation, everybody has to make split second decisions on their life sometimes. If you're in a business world, you have time to maybe work plan through and come up with a plan before you have to make a decision at the board meeting. So there's different situations like that. We make split second decisions in the car. Do I run the yellow light? Do I stop? Do I change lanes? So there's a lot of different things where you got to make split second decisions, and these guys are making split second decisions on their job. And that guy and those two officers had to make that decision right there. You know, and all you can go on is somebody videoing it.
right. Yeah, and you don't know what that whole story is.
Right. You don't have no idea until after the fact.
You might
Even if
not. I mean, you end up hearing what happened, but you don't know how true it is. And here's the thing, like, okay, how many encounters do police officers have with people every single day?
Sure.
And it's probably something where 999 out of 1,000 are somewhat pleasant, or if not pleasant, uneventful.
Uneventful. That's what every police officer, I think, wishes, that it's uneventful. Wouldn't you say?
Right,
Wouldn't you say
right,
an officer wants to go through his 8 hours uneventful and smooth and not have any altercations?
right. Oh, if I'm a cop, I want to be bored.
I want to be, yeah, I want everything to go calm, or if I'm called to something, I want it to be solvable and no
Right,
issues. Domestic
right,
violence. How many calls do they get for domestic violence or neighbor issues between neighbors,
right.
yelling and screaming, wanting to, what's the two families, the McCoys and
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, and you get called down there and they got ready to shoot each other. But yeah, there's a lot of times I know I talked to some of my police friends who said, yeah, I had the 11 to 7 a.m. shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. So you're dealing with a lot of things that are after bars close, and you're dealing with people that have been overserved and they're at home, and argument breaks out, and then you're getting called at 2 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning to the house or the motorhome or wherever, and you got to deal with that, and you got to hopefully it calms down. You watch the cops show all the time on TV. I mean, that's one of the for a while there back in the 90s or whatever it was, or years, that show people love to watch it.
yeah,
What you gonna do, all that. Everyone sing that song, and you watched how what they had to go through. You had to watch and see what some of those guys went through on a daily basis. That's what
I. It's interesting because I heard in Los Angeles. Now, Los Angeles has been notorious for corruption, and you're talking going back decades, like
sure.
you know 7, 8 decades.
Mm-hmm.
And corruption, Rodney King in the '90s, and
Sure.
even like the OJ thing, where
Oh
just
yeah.
kind of botched the handling of the evidence there and all that stuff, and
Sure.
how that
Sure.
raised enough of a doubt. And
Yeah.
anyway, they don't have a good reputation.
Right.
Anyway, let's get to the point. Apparently there you train, and you when you come out of the police academy, and you go right to the county courthouse or county jail. So you're dealing with, and you're dealing with the criminals who have, or alleged criminals that have just been arrested.
Sure.
You have the drug tank, they're in a temporary facility awaiting
Sure.
um, you know due process.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be the ones that are, they haven't had a chance to think about what they did. They haven't had a chance to like understand that they may be incarcerated for 3 to 5 years or whatever it may end up being.
Sure.
These are people who just got caught doing whatever they were doing, and they're sitting in a jail cell with other people.
Yeah.
So they're the most belligerent ones, and these cops, fresh out of the
Academy.
police academy,
Hmm.
they learn their craft by dealing with the worst of the worst.
Sure.
So then when they handle that and handle it well enough, now they go out and they're beat cops, and they're traffic cops, they're pulling people over.
Mm.
And but now they've had a couple years of this county jail. So they treat people a certain way, because the only people they deal with for the first couple years on the force is
Yeah.
belligerent criminals.
Right. Yeah. Guys who are in there that are, yeah. I remember some of the guys that I grew up with that became police officers who that's where they started off pretty much was they had to do the jail first. And then after that, they came out and were on narcotics or the DARE program or, whatever, investigating the fire.
But you might be talking that you don't want them to do. You're like, you're dealing with a certain segment of society. And again, this is people who've already you've they've already been arrested
Sure.
versus soccer mom going too fast, trying to get to practice.
Right.
I mean, it might not be the best way to do things.
No.
And that's the thing. They have to look at that. And I mean, I don't I know a few police officers. I mean, we grew up with the same people.
Yeah.
We know a lot of the same guys.
Sure.
They're generally really good guys.
Yeah.
And the ones I've encountered, like when I do get pulled over for a speeding ticket or whatever, they're
Hmm.
good guys too.
Yeah.
And and again, there's whatever profession you're in, there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Sure.
Are the
Sure.
things that are happening, is it just an escalation of the bad ones? Because even if that's happening, whatever's happening can't happen anymore. I understand it's a tough situation. They have a tough job. I wouldn't want to do it.
No. No.
And but to me, it's like the old thing about the military, like thank you for your service.
Sure.
I think the same thing about cops.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was walk into a restaurant at lunchtime. There's 4 cops sitting there. I'm thinking the whole time I'm going to buy these guys their lunch.
Sure.
Just want them to
Yeah.
know,
Or-
Joe
Yeah.
Public supports them.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I've done that before where I've offered to buy their, you know, their
yeah,
lunch or whatever, or something just to, so,
yeah, and I've done it a handful of times. So I'm
yeah,
going to do it, and then just as I'm ready, but they're eating, and I don't want to bother them. There's 4 of them.
right. You just
Just
tell
as
the
I'm,
waitress,
and I'm sitting real close to them, and I don't hear their conversation, but I hear their rumbling. So they're in a conversation. I'm not listening to what they're talking about. And
sure.
I'm not that close. So finally, I hear that it's like a lull in the conversation, and I go and start thinking, okay, I'm going to go over there and ask if I can buy their lunch. And all of a sudden, like the owner of the place comes over, and I hear him mumble something, and then they all go, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you."
Oh, yeah.
And a couple minutes later, they get up and they walk to another booth, and they thank these 2 older women.
Oh, so they had offered to,
Yeah. So
uh,
in that situation, I mean, there
yeah,
were at least 2 like me, and then another group of
sure.
people who were ready to buy them lunch. And that's
Yeah,
the thing. I mean, I appreciate them. I want them. I want more of them,
sure. Sure.
but I am white. I am male. I am straight. I'm the power class in society.
Sure.
I don't have any power myself,
Right.
but white straight males do.
Yeah. If you
They
had
probably
pecking,
didn't
if you had
even
pecking order, probably. Yeah.
they probably didn't notice that I was even there.
Sure.
If I'm a black male, not only do they notice that I'm there, I probably notice them and question whether I should be there.
Sure.
And that's the idea. That's the whole thing. Like, it's a completely different way of thinking. And even, and I'm not saying I'm like something special because I think I understand.
Sure.
But again, I think I understand.
Yeah.
I don't know because I doubt I ever will know
Yeah.
for sure because I don't go through it. But that's the thing. I mean, and and to see it happen time and time and again, and even a little thing like, um, reeling it back in here, even a little thing like getting them, just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to draw more attention to this
Mm.
now by not playing tonight. Whether it's a baseball game or entire NBA league. And again, getting back to that, I think that's great leadership of um, the NBA commissioner, whose name's escaping me right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's just out David Silver.
Silver. David Silver. Yes. Hmm.
Um, I think it's awesome leadership
Yeah.
because he's just basically saying, You don't have to. Not every one of you has to make an individual decision.
Right.
I'll make it for you. Well, let's
Right.
just do this easy. Sometimes it's good when the decisions are easy.
Sure.
Boom. We'll do this. We don't have about forfeits. We don't want people second guessing your decision, whatever it may be, or like I said, even not making a decision. Um, we're going to make it, and we're going to be done with it, and we'll see what happens. Whether it lasts another couple days or tonight was it,
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think it could be. Yeah, I would think it'd be an isolated one-time thing. I think, like initially when I first heard it today, and some of the responses online were, "Oh, this should be a loss then for them. If they're not going to play, then it should be an automatic loss." Or let them
Right?
the
Yeah.
next two. I mean, the series is 3-1. They're up 3-1 in the series, so you make your statement in that game. Why, why wouldn't you make it at 3-3? Or like somebody said, "Oh, why wouldn't you make it at 3-3?" And then they've got a chance of being, losing the game or whatever. And, obviously people, make statements or whatever, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's just, uh, like going back to the sports and stuff, you can relate to sports just like guys for football or baseball, pitcher going to the mound for the first pitch of the game, or the football team's on the kickoff and you're waiting to go in the game to start the game, and the kickoff, first anxiety, the adrenaline you have, the excitement you have for that, or basketball, obviously, the first to tip off. So you think about the adrenaline that they have, and you relate that to a police officer. He's going to
Right.
his job, and he's got to deal with his adrenaline. So you're driving along in the cop car, not mine, whatever it goes on. I can't say what they do, but all of a sudden, bang! Here comes the call, and you're racing. So now your adrenaline's picking up, and you're in that same situation you would be. You and I played sports. People play sports. You know what that feeling is before you're going. You got anxiety, nervous anxiety. Doesn't matter who you are and how many times you do it. You're still going to have it.
Right.
And I'm sure they're racing there, and it's like you get there and you got to assess the situation. And you make that split second, going back to that thing where I said you got to make that split second decision. And you know what they're trained in, the same situation. You're racing down the football field after a kickoff, and you got to block. Someone's going to block you. You got to figure out how you're going to hit them and get off them to make the tackle, or first snap of the football. An offense and defense. You got to make that split second decision and go make that tackle or read the play. So you're really in that situation. Here they are, the police officers, same situation. Things are heated. You get in there, your adrenaline's going, and you got to either dial it back or you keep going and keep. How do you train yourself to make that adjustment? I guess and you go in there and you got to make that decision, whether it's tackling somebody, chasing somebody, whatever. But, you know, there's a lot of different things there that relate to the athletic world that police officers have to deal with. I think to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But
No, I agree. And again, you make a mistake. I mean, it's not winning or losing a game.
no, it's not winning or losing the
It's
game.
losing a life,
Right.
whether your own or
Yeah.
be, to your hand.
Right. Yeah. You don't know.
No, it's not. It's not an easy job, and
No.
I
No.
don't know.
It
It's
takes
just.
a special person for it, I think.
I
I mean,
agree.
I think all guys go there. I mean, could I sat there in high school or whatever and said that guy's going to be a cop or he's going to be a police officer? That guy's going to be a police officer. He's got the makeup to be a police officer. Like I came out of high school and I was coaching, and one of my boys I was coaching, his dad was a police officer. He's like, "You should come to the academy. We're short. We need bodies. We need people. You should come." And I'm thinking, I just don't have that makeup. I remember going to mom and dad, my mom and dad, and I'm 19 years old, and they're like, you know, what? And I said, yeah, Mr. So and so. He said I should probably look into being in the academy. They need people, and they're like, they kind of both looked at me and said, what? Yeah, they're not. That's not a makeup for you. And I said, I know, but that's just something that they said.
Right.
Obviously, some people went in there, and that's what happens. But I don't have that makeup. I don't have that kind of a makeup to be able to be a police officer and have that adrenaline rush that you have sometimes when you run into a situation like that. You
Right.
know, it's like that commercial they have for the Marines. You ever see that commercial? You run into people are running away from it, but the Marines are running into it. I
Yeah.
forget how
Yeah,
that
yeah, 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 right.
forget how that is. Or here you are, like a lot of people said, the Twin Towers. People are running out of the building, knowing that who knows, and these guys are going in there, running up the stairs to try to save bodies,
Yeah.
knowing that that thing's coming down. That's a very good chance of that thing. You didn't think it'd come down like it did, but it did. Maybe they're going on how they were trained.
Right.
They just need to get there and try to save lives, right?
Right. Get
And
there as quickly as you can
get
without
things under
thinking.
control. Yeah, get things under control and do what you can to make things right. And so yeah, it's a hard situation. Uh, and I credit them, and that's what people always say. The frontliners. Whether it's doctors in the ER room making split-second decisions on a
Right.
body that's just brought into them. Life or death. What are you going to do? You got to go on how you've been trained and how they were taught growing up, through medical school. So to be right, could be wrong. Most of the time they're pretty successful, but there are times when they are, so,
Right.
uh, and they're not biased, I don't think, by who's laying there on the table,
Correct.
and it's not anything in that situation. It's whoever's there, that's who they're dealing with, and they're going to try to save that person's life, or none of them are
No,
going
that's
to
the
walk out.
thing.
None of them are going to walk out of there going, I can't work on this guy.
Right.
Get the other doctor in here. I mean,
No, it's a good comparison because in each case, you don't, somebody who has to make the decision doesn't have all the information.
sure.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, they're, like, I don't, it's just funny because, well, not funny. Nothing about this is funny. Um, it's difficult because even, some, people like you and I who want to understand it and maybe even to help others understand it. Once we feel we understand, um, it's almost impossible to understand for a number of reasons. Some that I've named already, but
Yeah.
others because you don't know what happened.
Right.
Even there's not a guy out there filming all day. He films because things escalate.
Sure.
Because all of a sudden now there's a dude out there going with his cell phone filming it, and because something's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what happened?
Right.
What already happened? Because what already happened might help dictate the future actions.
Explain why it
You know,
ended the way it ended.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't listen to me 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
You, I told you to drop the knife 7 different times. You didn't listen to it. You turned around quickly. I had to shoot you.
Right.
Okay, and I'm not saying that happened.
Right.
Um, but to be fair, it might also be somebody first time through the cop saying, "Drop it, or I'm going to shoot you."
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, well, and the guy's going, "What are you talking about?"
Right. Yeah.
And then boom,
Yeah.
in this case, okay, 7 times in the back. I mean that seems odd,
Sure.
right? I mean, because even taking a pistol safety class, you're not taught to do that. It's kind of
Right.
like two shots,
Yeah.
you know?
Even if it's one, and assess what's
Yeah.
going on after one, but
And that's the thing. It's
or
kind of like bam, bam, look what's going on. Bam, bam, look what's going on.
right. Or like some people say, well, hit the leg, or don't go where you know slow the guy down, or whatever it is. You've seen that in movies, or how
Right.
people take it. This just don't we need him to explain. in that situation. I would think, like you said, obviously there's a lot of stuff that went on beforehand, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out after the fact. Just like in the other case, a lot of
Right.
things came out at first. They knew each other. I don't even know. So there's a lot of different information, whether it's true or not, or how it came out. I mean, obviously there's a lot of situations. The one here in town where the uh, police had their video on, and it showed exactly what was going on, and it calmed the protesters after that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of things there that are involved in it, but. And we relate this tonight. I mean, obviously, we want to talk about this a little bit tonight, but whether or not the athletes are sitting out games or they're postponing games, and obviously that's a statement that they have the right to make. I mean, and like you said, if the commissioner's with it, then yeah, that's better that way to do it as a group than to do protest individually. You know what I mean?
No,
So
I mean it's almost it's almost great that they're able because they're in a position where they can make a statement.
hmm
There's spotlight on them,
sure,
and now they choose to make a statement. And I once I knew what was going on, I was really paying attention, and there's doesn't appear to be anybody grandstanding yet.
no,
Nobody's doing it to draw attention to themselves.
no,
You're Doc Rivers talking, yesterday, I believe.
very emotional. I thought,
Yeah, and it was, and that's listen to him, listen to what he says. That's
yeah,
coming from somebody who's felt it,
sure, sure,
and this
yeah,
is a guy who was a professional athlete for a long time, and I was been a professional coach for a long time.
yeah, exactly,
That's not just some dude down the street.
right. He's got a lot of experience. He's seen a
Yeah,
lot of stuff.
and he knows what it is.
Sure.
And if you're damn Doc Rivers and you're you know what it is. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the
yeah,
thing. Again, I don't even like using examples because I think it diminishes the people who've actually dealt with it.
sure.
And I can't. Okay, so you're talking. Okay, so I lived for a year in the Virgin Islands. It's like 91% black when I was there. All right, so I saw some racism for sure. There's one restaurant that I went to that it didn't have like a line. You just kind of like, you know, it was like a street. It was like a little hole in the wall, like
Yeah,
literally, where you kind of like
yeah.
there's a couple, like it's in an alley, and you just
Okay.
go up to a counter and you
Yeah,
order, but there's
yeah,
no line, and they just pick who. Well, I'm last every single time, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm the oddball,
sure.
and but after a year of it, and I'm thinking like, why do we even go there? I shouldn't even go. But I'm like, because it had good food. It had good cheap food.
Yeah,
So I
right.
dealt with, a minor amount of racism. And
hmm
again, there's really nothing else. I've been in areas where, I'm the one white guy in a mall when I was a district manager for retail,
hmm
and just walking to the store, and people are calling me names. Um, it's odd, but I'm fully aware that I'm the oddball there.
Sure.
So it's weird. It's weird. I got to I'm still going to be myself. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna immediately assimilate, because frankly, me assimilating into like an urban culture is just going to draw attention to my whiteness.
right. Right.
And so you just be yourself, and you just know that you're and I'm not. It's not so. Is that how black people feel when they in the suburbs?
Sure.
Or even 20 years ago when they're driving through Livonia? Is that how they feel? When
Oh
they
yeah.
get called out for
Yeah.
being black in Livonia?
Yeah.
I mean, it's and then you throw that. It's been. I mean, you're talking. There's a lot of civil rights progress made in the late '60s.
Sure.
Well, dude, that's 50 years ago.
Sure.
50. And look what's still going on.
Right. Yeah. As it
I mean,
progressed. Right.
what's it going to be 50 years from now? Is it still going to be going on?
Right.
Because at the current rate, it will be.
Yeah. Unless they address it.
Right.
Yeah.
And again,
And
I
this
mean,
this is the probably within the last year or so, maybe it's the most predominant. I think that you've heard about it, where it's maintained its course. You've heard about it. It's been referenced again, but it shouldn't take an incident to all of a sudden get everybody worked up again. You know what I mean? It shouldn't take that. It should be able to be on the, you know, on the agenda a little bit more, no doubt about it. But yeah, yeah, I've had friends. I worked with some guys. They were like, we'd be out hanging out after work, and they're like, "Yeah, we got to get going." I said, "What? You going?" He says, "Yeah, we got to get out of here before it is light." They want to be around because they get pulled over. They were fearing that they might get pulled over
right.
being in the area they were in after dark. So they were like, "We're just going to get back on our side of town." And I said, "That's cool, man. Whatever. That's I totally get you. And that kind of stuff. The same with I would go visit them. And I'd be pulling out of there, and I'd be riding, and you look around, and you always have that uneasiness until you crossed a certain street or you got
Right.
over a certain area. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
back in my I'm back in my comfort zone, so to speak.
Right, right, right.
I was back in where my area. But so there's a lot of things like that where in your head you're like, all right, but you shouldn't think that way, but it is the way sometimes you think.
Well, and that's the thing, is it
Same way you felt in the Virgin
right.
Islands, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, do you think it because you've lived it for forever? Or do you think it because you're paranoid? I mean, I used to think that people thought it because they were paranoid or they were looking to blame it on something. And I don't think that anymore. I think I think it's real. And I don't think there's always malice involved, but I think it's
Yeah,
very, very real.
yeah,
And, again, I mean, you know, there was, there was an OJ Simpson movie. Um, it was either on like FX or ESPN, one of the two,
yeah,
a couple years ago. And there was a thing where they were talking about Mark Furman, and the actor playing Christopher Darden was talking to somebody, and he was talking about Furman. And what he said was, and again, I don't know if any of this is true, but it was just interesting to me. But he said, like, he goes, he's just someone, there's just something behind him. There's some thought. He's saying everything he's supposed to say, but he doesn't believe it.
right.
You just know there's a thought behind those eyes that isn't right. And
Yeah,
that's the thing. And I get that. I've seen it. I've seen people do it. Um, it's uncomfortable. I probably do it myself at times,
hmm
but it's just the recognition of a black man versus a white man.
Sure,
Two people walk into the room and it's a black man and a white woman, and you go, hey, mixed couple.
sure,
Why do you give a crap? But
yeah,
you recognize it.
sure.
And even in that recognition, it might be uncomfortable for that person because I'm just one guy seeing it. But what if there's 16 when those two people walk in the restaurant just to have
Yeah, Yeah,
but they walk in, 16 different people look at them, just slightly cross-eyed.
sure, sure. But you even see it nowadays on commercials where they'll do commercials, where before you'd never see uh, a mixed relationship,
Right.
and now you see commercials. So the media's gone there, and they, yeah, and they always talked about, over the years, whether you go back to, like you hear a lot about Brady Bunch and the steps they had to take to get, this first time they ever showed a husband and wife in bed together. You go
Right.
back to Lucy and the Lucy show. I love Lucy. Ricky and Lucy, they always showed them in two separate beds.
Yeah.
They were never in bed together. So I think the first time that ever the TV showed two a male and a female in bed together was Brady Bunch. I think I heard, or something of that nature. So you think about all the different things that have gone on to become acceptable. You know what I mean?
I got
And
to plug in here. I'm going to lose you.
you're gonna lose me, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of different things you got to press through to where now it's acceptable, or uh, whether it's interracial marriages or interracial couples, or even I watch the $1 million listings on TV,
Right.
and some of the sales guys there are you know gay, and they get married, and it's all on TV, so it's stuff that you have a choice whether you want to watch it or you don't want to watch it, but it's something that you know is on TV. So and that's what you have at cable. You have your choice. You can watch what you want to watch. You're not necessarily stuck to, like we grew up, 247, channel 50, channel 20, channel 56, and that was what we were. If you were watching TV, that's what you were uh,
Right.
open to. And then all of a sudden, I remember my grandma in the mid 70s saying, "Oh, there's going to be this thing called cable TV that's going to come out, and you'll be able to watch 200 channels." I'm like, "What?" And she was telling me about it. And next thing you know, in 1979, I'm watching ESPN, and I'm like, "Wow, this is going to be a great channel." This thing has a lot of potential. And I'll look at ESPN, and what it's taken over. I said, "No way, they'll never take over ABC Sports or NBC Sports." But then all of a sudden, 24-hour sports channel, holy cow, you know.
Yeah.
And it's do they push their agenda sometimes? Sure, that's fine. Everyone has their chance. 247 can do that. It is what it is. And all the channels, you can choose which one you want to watch. You can watch, NBC Sports. You can watch ESPN Sports. You can watch Big Ten Network. You can watch SEC. You can watch, all the different channels. Pac-12. So you have your choices to watch and listen to whatever you want to watch. Like I watch Big Ten Network a lot. I haven't watched it lately because there's really nothing on there to watch, right?
Right.
And if I want to know what's going on in SEC, I can go watch the SEC channel and get direct word right from the SEC channel or the Pac-12. So there's a lot of different things. The Longhorn Network, so the sports has options for people to watch, and it's just your choice. You can choose to watch it, you can choose not to watch it. So a lot of times you can choose to, be a voice in this situation, uh, like they are now, and they're boycotting games, or they're making a statement. They're going to postpone a game to make it aware of equality. The NBA, they wear the jerseys now with the all the words on the back and the names and stuff. That's another way to promote
Right.
your meanings.
Well,
I mean,
you're calling attention to it.
yeah. I mean,
Like, what you originally started with, like, even the mixed couple in the commercial. It's something to call attention to it, and it brings it to the forefront, and that's good.
sure,
Again, I mentioned white male straight power elite. That's who still run things. Look at our
sure.
president. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, so, but you know, that power elite doesn't represent everybody.
Right,
And anytime anyone is shown, whether you like it or not, whether it represents you or not, I mean, I think white straight males don't like things because it's not who they are.
Sure.
And we run things for so long that, we don't even get that that's not how other people view things.
Sure.
And there's just, like, exposure is good for everything.
Yeah.
It it helps people understand that there's other things out there, and it's not a shock anymore. And even if it's just not a shock, whatever it is, you're talking. I mean, God, it wasn't too long ago when like Ellen and the
Sure.
television show.
Right.
Wow, I mean that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember it being a huge deal. I didn't watch
Sure.
the show,
Yeah. Me
uh,
either.
but I remember it being a huge deal. And like you think about it now, and you're like, wait, why was that a huge deal?
Right. Yeah.
Because
Look back.
even a short time ago, that was
Yeah.
not a regular thing. That was a shocking moment,
Sure.
and now you're kind of like, why?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, like, and this stuff. I mean, getting back to the basketball team and the Brewers, this is good. It brings attention to it.
Sure.
It brings attention to it, and it's a peaceful protest,
That's a
which is
big
what
thing.
you're supposed
Peaceful
to.
protests are good.
Yeah,
The other things are probably not as good. I
right,
think that's why people are getting upset. But you know, who knows? But I mean, obviously the athletes have a stage, and they're able to utilize that as long as they utilize it the right way, and they continue after they're off the stage. So when
right,
games aren't on, that they're still doing it behind, you know, they're in the community, they're trying to make it better in the community, and not
right,
just doing it because it's a game that was supposed to be played or a national anthem or whatever. As long as, and I think that's something that they've already accepted that, and I think there a lot more people are doing, since the first kneel down or whatever,
right,
years ago. Um, but I think there's more awareness to it. I think, I think that there's more things out there that are trying to uh, address those kind of things, and that's a good thing. And are we farther along than we were probably, from where maybe Colin Kaepernick took a knee, the first time, and everybody, went crazy. I mean, now it's something where it's probably more acceptable, or so there's things like that uh, you know, it's a topic that could be carried on for a while.
right.
No about
Absolutely.
it, and there may be new things, like we always said in our previous shows, until something else comes up, which this came up, and we wanted to address it, and and we really wanted to talk about how a fan is going to come back and watch a game.
Right,
Will all this alienate the fan? You hear a lot about that too.
right,
Oh, people, I'm not going to go watch NBA anymore. I'm not going to go. I'm turning it off. I'm not going to watch it on TV, or this Big Ten. They're going to do this. I'm not going to go back and watch it then. Because of them saying, oh, we're not going to have a season, or the Pac-12 or whatever. And then so there's a lot of different things right now where people are angry about it, and but with time, over time, people will calm down maybe, and oh well, yeah, I'll go to the Pistons game, or I'll go to an NBA game, or yeah, oh, you got Rick House tickets, I'll go to the game,
yeah. And
so
there's a history of them calming down over time. I remember that. What was it, the '81 strike for baseball? I remember hearing about that. Like, oh, if they're these prima donnas, I'm not gonna support them anymore. A couple years later, Tigers are winning the World Series. Everyone's, you know, just dying to go. Um, the NFL strike, what was it?
right, people are all mad. I mean, the NHL, we
Seven,
didn't have the,
maybe?
we didn't have
But
the Stanley Cup the one year. Remember, they went
yeah,
on strike, and there was no Stanley Cup. Well, I'm not going back to watch the hockey. We'll
yeah,
just go back, or the strike, the NFL strike. You took games and you put other guys out there to play or whatever. Did you still
Right.
watch? Did you still go back? Stadiums are still full. The Super Bowl still had,
Yeah.
$6 for 30 seconds of advertising or whatever it was.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, there's instantaneous anger, but over time, people tend to maybe forget or it goes to the back burner, and then they just, will all return back to the games once, the chances are, I mean, I sit here watch the Tigers, and it's like, man, it'd be great to go down and watch a game. You
Right.
appreciate someone stated something the other day, all this not being able to go to things and do things, the appreciation will be better when they're finally allowed to go back again. You might walk in and stand there for a minute and look around the ball diamond and go, wow, you know, you might sit there a little longer after the game's over just to take it all in because you took for granted maybe being able to do it, you know.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things in the sports world, whether it's that or the movie theaters just opened back up in some places, or the restaurants finally opened up, and people are gradually going back to restaurants, and whether it's 6 feet away or mask or no masks. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that people eventually now there's more people that go to the local restaurant here in town than there used to be. So gradually, as they stated, it's gradually will open back up again.
Right.
So, but
All right. Well, hey, I got to wrap this up.
yeah, we'll call this up. But I mean, it's a good topic. Obviously, we covered a few things, and obviously, we're talking about the athletes and how they're protesting and what it'll affect, whether it affects the game or it affects the fans or those kind of things, and making their statements. Obviously, you lose out on the game, but they're back again tomorrow, and hopefully, they can and find the equal median here for this issue. That's kind of driving society nowadays. But any last words you want to say before we call it a show here?
No,
No.
no. I think it was a good talk.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think we'll see how it progresses. Hopefully, the awareness will stay on there. People will stay on it. People that are boisterous about it now will continue to stay upfront on the subject, and it'll be addressed a little bit more. So, like you said, 50 years from now, we're not, whoever it is, I'm not going to be around, I don't think, but whoever it is, won't be having to deal with the same type of situation. My kids won't have to deal with this.
Right.
It's the stuff that affects different people, and their grandkids, my grandkids. I mean, all the stuff that eventually will have to be addressed. So,
Right.
and my sports talk, we're here covering local sports, local teams, Michigan teams, but also national issues also. So, good talk, Griff.
All
We'll
right.
do it again.
Thanks, Pat. Yep.
Week. Be good.
Yeah. You
Say
too,
hi to
man. We'll
Wheatley
see ya.
and Carver there.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
All right. See you, man.
See you, bud.